Reactivity can destroy our relationships. Hello, friend. Humans all get reactive, but in our reactivity, we can make a mess all around us. Have you ever lashed out and go, oh, what just happened? By the end of this video, you're gonna have some tools that'll really help you. Because I've noticed that when we are in those moments, we're one of two things. We're either a pressure cooker, which makes tasty food, but not so good for relationships, or we're an empty cup. So let's talk about it. The first thing we need to watch is our margin. See, when we have a lack of margin, we become a pressure cooker because we're running from one thing to the other and it's building. Like when I was a pastor at a church, we had on Monday, like 20 million meetings. No, it was one meeting after another meeting after another meeting, and there was no break in between things. And here's what would happen. You would carry a little bit from one meeting to the next, to the next, and to the next. And then, so by the last one, everyone's tired, exhausted, and grouchy. Right? We do this in our lives when we stack things so close together that there's no room to go, and then wonder why we're exploding on others. Like, that's a lack of margin. And here's how you can put a little margin in to lower your reactivity. You can schedule in space in between things. So we're recording videos today. I've learned over time that I need a little space between a meeting and recording so that I can become the best version of myself. Because when I don't do that, I'm all emotional and spun up and I can't think. We also need days of rest where we have nothing going on. That's part of the activity of margin. If you are someone that keeps a calendar, which I hope you are, try calendaring in time with just you and God. Those are just little principles that'll increase your margin because you don't want to bring work home. And you don't want to bring home to work. You want a separation, and margin is one of the things that can help us with that. Number 2, lower the controllable stress. Lower the controllable stress. And I'll describe what I'm talking about here. But one of them, when I'm talking about margin, I'm talking about your calendar. Like, mark things out on the calendar and look at it. Because sometimes I have said yes to things and then I've looked at my week and I've been like, oh, this is really? What was I? This is going to be a bad week. And I'm like wishing the week away. Or I didn't budget my finances and finances get tight. See, there's controllable things around you, whether it's schedules, monetary things. Are you looking at those? Because we play a part. Sometimes, I don't know if you are an aggressive person or a passive person, but the more passive you are, the more you just accept what is coming at you, whether it's other people's demands, wants and desires, and there needs to be roadblocks you're putting in, little stop gaps to protect yourself. And if you're more of an aggressive person like I am, you need to stop trying to take every hill in sight. And so having a budget of financing, having a budget of time, having a budget of your energy really will look at it and will lower your reactivity. When you're reactive, it's usually you're low on energy. You're either rushing around, pressure cooker, or you're pouring from an empty cup because you haven't monitored your energy. I own a restaurant, and one of the things I can fall into the trap of is I can be so focused on what I'm doing that I'll forget to eat. Everything else goes out the window until all of a sudden I'm shaking because I have no food and it's time to go home. Because I'm fixated on it. See, I have increased stress that I can control. And instead, I bring it home. Low food Zach is an angry Zach. And so, to control the controllables, I have snacks in my car. So I have something to eat. I stop after work. And an old entrepreneur taught me a lesson. So if you have trouble leaving work at work, try this out. What he said to me was, when you turn the key on in your car, imagine you're turning off work and you're turning on home. And if you cannot do that in the moment, stop and evaluate. Is there something you need to finish? Or are you holding on the stress of the day? And either way, either go back in and finish what you need to finish, or take a few minutes and just pause in the car and let it go. Now I don't turn a key, I have a little push button start, but the same principle applies. Number 3, this will be a 3-step process to go through this. But remember when I said you're sitting in the car and there's either things to do or there's things you're carrying. And if there's things you're carrying, this is the process you go through. First, you notice, right? Like we're taking that time in the car to notice. How's my heart? How's my mind? Like each time you leave from one location to the other, it's a good practice just to do that. Because some of us are unaware of how we're doing. And so this will help you if you're more on the unaware side. So you're noticing what's going on inside of me. And then you name, what is it that you're carrying? As concretely as possible. And so when I get off work, one of the things I carry is if a conversation went bad, right? If a conversation went bad, I notice, oh, I'm still spun up about that. And then I name it. I don't just say, oh, the conversation went bad. I name what it is that I'm having trouble letting go. Is it the action of the individual I was talking with? Is that the part? Or is there something internally inside of me? 9 times out of 10, it's something within me. Because this guy likes to be liked. And so usually it's a conversation where I know I wasn't liked. It was the thing that needed to happen. But that someone's probably thinking poorly of me that evening. And so just name what it is that you're spun up about. That will diffuse most things. It's just by noticing and naming, but there's going to be some that you're still carrying, that you're still in that pressure cooker state. And so this is going to be tip number 4, is how do we fully diffuse? And again, just like the other one, these are 3 different steps that you can go through. And the first one is that there's certain places that fill you up. The second one is there's people that fill you up. And the third one is there's activities that fill you up. So I'm going to continue with this example of coming home from work because I've noticed a lot of reactivity happens in that moment where we've brought something home and we're reacting to someone within our house over something they weren't even involved in. And so if you can really look at who fills you up, where fills you up, and what fills you up, you can do some of those things before you even get home. So here's some examples from my life. There's people in my life that fill me up. And so on my way home from work, maybe I'll call them and talk to them about my day. There's other people that I'm going to call and tell them about my day because it won't cause them to be reactive. See, if someone's hating on me, one of the ways I care for my wife, this is just a side point, is that I don't share that with her first. Because when I'm hurt, she hurts. And so instead, I'll talk to a friend about it. And she'll get the cleaned up, less hurt Zach and be less reactive herself. So for this guy, I love nature. And the river flows right around me. So one of the things to do places that fill me up is I'll stop at the river and just listen to it for a couple minutes. Sometimes that's all I need to calm my spirit. But if I'm extra spun up and it's light enough out, I break out the fly pole that's in the back of my car and I do a little fly fishing. Because again, that's an activity that fills me up. But sometimes, my friend, it's just dark and miserable out because I live in Oregon, and in the winter, that's what happens. And I can't do those 3 things. But I warn those in my house that I had a rough day. and I just need a few minutes. So when I walk inside, I greet them, but then I go and fill up. See, be honest about where you are. Look inward. You don't have to be a superhero every day. Some days, you need moments to fill. All right, number 5, and this is super critical. Pray to God. See, we need to pray to our Father, who is the one that gives us the energy to be less reactive. It's the one that gives us the willpower to be less reactive. See, if you're trying to do this whole thing on your own, these tips will help you. But nothing is greater than going on God power. See, we have spirit man and flesh man inside of all of us. And the flesh is weak. And I'm angry. And those things will come out. And I can be selfish and those things will come out. But the spirit man, that one can endure long suffering. Can walk in joy no matter hardships. Same thing is true for you. Pray and recognize when you're walking in your own willpower or the power and might of God. See, it says in the scriptures that his yoke is easy and his burden is light. One of the things that reminds me of that is just to plug in those moments, because without him, I'm lost. All right, the last step, you're gonna mess up. You're gonna be reactive. Apologize and have grace for yourself. See, for me, I can struggle with self-condemnation, and I can be reactive and totally regret that reactivity and just beat myself up for it. And then become more reactive in that. See, having grace for our mess-ups is not like an excuse or a downplaying of it. It's an acceptance that Jesus died for that too. So have grace for yourself in this process. God bless you as you rely on God's power and strength and become less reactive.